What's up, guys? So finally I'm ready to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2, give you my review. Now I'm gonna tell you guys right off the bat, I don't want to spoil this game for anybody, so I'm not gonna go into details about the story or anything that I would consider a spoiler. And honestly, there is so much to cover when it comes to this game. There's a lot of things I'm not gonna have the time to just go through. I'm not gonna do a 2-hour review about the game. It's just there's too much to talk about. So I'm gonna break it down to as simple as I can. And there's a million other reviews out there that are much more detailed and actually show clips of the game and stuff. And I would consider those reviews a better review. I'm not going to say that this review is going to be better in terms of explaining things or showing detail, because it's not. It's just going to be me describing certain things about the game. So I do highly recommend you guys check out. There's like a million videos already out there. But just for those of you who care about what I think of it, I'm going to come right off the bat and just tell you that this game is a 10 out of 10. It is the greatest game I have ever played. For me, in my opinion, this is the greatest game ever made. Okay, now that is just my opinion, and that's subject to people's personal tastes and stuff like that. But I do think that even if you're someone who says, I don't like westerns, or this isn't my type of game, if you sat down and really went through it, and you just looked at it on a technical level, right? It would be hard to argue that this isn't at least one of the best games ever made, because you can break it down on technical terms, right? When it comes to sound, graphics, detail, all of that stuff. If you really want to break it down just on a technical level, it's hard to argue that it's one of the best games ever made. Now, personally, I love westerns. I loved the first Red Dead Redemption, so I knew going in I was gonna really love this game. But you have to try to be objective, and so I'm gonna go through the main stuff about the game on a technical level, and then I'll talk about the cons, right? Because even if I give the game a 10 out of 10, I think it's important that people understand a 10 out of 10 doesn't mean somebody saying it's perfection. There's no such thing as perfection, because you're going to find a flaw somewhere if you look for it. So when you see a rating that somebody says it's a 10 out of 10, I don't think anyone really means it's perfect. 10 out of 10 just means it's a masterpiece, which it is for me. So let's get right into it. First of all, on just talking about graphics and visuals, the game is mind-blowingly stunning. It is one of the best looking games I've ever played, and I think it stacks up nicely with even PC games. I'm not saying that there's not a better looking PC game, right? I've heard mention of Witcher 3, which I've never played, and a couple of other games that probably people can point to and say, well, technically this game is better and blah, blah, blah. But on a console, I've never seen a better looking game. The game is mind-blowing, in my opinion. It is stunning. In terms of sound quality, it is also amazing. I love the sound of the game. The audio, the soundtrack, the music, everything is perfect for the environment. It all adds up to a level of immersion that few games can match. When you play this game, there are moments where you get lost in the moment, and you kind of forget you're in a game. You're just like kind of soaking in the atmosphere. I love that. And I've talked in the past about things that, what are things I look for in a video game that I like? What makes a good game to me? And the first thing I would tell you is it a game that I want to take my time with and soak everything in. I don't like a game that you're rushing through. If you're rushing through a game, to me that's a bad sign. I think when you slow down and you really take in everything and you explore every corner of every place you go, looking for stuff and finding unique things and just enjoying the atmosphere, whether it's the visuals, the sound, and that's immersion. And that's the kind of stuff that, for me, is a necessity in a great game. You gotta have that. I like taking my time. I don't like rushing through games. So that's a good sign. And this game exemplifies that better than any game I've ever played. I was never in a rush. And it is a slow-paced game. And I will tell you this. If you're somebody who has a short attention span, if you're somebody who needs explosions and gunfights every 10-15 minutes to keep you interested, this may not be for you. The game is also centered on realism. It's one of the most realistic games, right? It's still, at the end of the day, a video game. There are moments where, yeah, you gotta accept it's a game. If you make it too realistic, it's not. You just can't do that, and still have the entertainment value of a video game. But it is centered on realism. It has RPG elements that go really deep, and maybe for some people who don't have a wider attention span, may turn them off. And there are people who said, yeah, the game is really slow paced. It takes a long time to really get going. And, you know, for me, that's not a negative. That's a positive. That's definitely not something that you should take points away for. To me, that's just a matter of taste. If you just don't like the slow pace, it may not be for you. But I would invite those of you who normally wouldn't be into that type of game, or if you're somebody who says, I don't like Westerns, I invite you to really give this game a chance. Because I promise you, if you really soak it in, take your time with it, I think you'll grow to appreciate what it really does. So I love that type of stuff. I love how everything is so methodical. And as I said, there's a lot of RPG elements that go really deep, and it may turn some people off. The fact that you do got to kind of maintain yourself. You got to eat, because after a while your health deteriorates. Your horse, you have to take care of your horse, because the health of the horse will deteriorate, and so will the performance. So, you see, for years people have complained about things that maybe were not realistic, and now that when they add some realism to it, you also get people complaining about that. So no matter what, you're never going to please everyone. But I love it, and you got to take care of your weapons. You got to make sure they're clean. Now, none of these things I'm talking about is something you have to do constantly, right? So it's not they didn't overdo it. And for me, they did the pacing of it is perfect, because you can go a while without really focusing on that stuff. But after a while, you do notice it, and then you got to do something about it. Whether it's go have a fucking meal, or you have in your satchel, you have food. You got stuff you can eat. It's not like you're lost and you got nothing to eat and you're just going to fucking deteriorate and die. It never got to that point. So it's all manageable stuff. But if you want realism, if you appreciate a methodical paced type of game with a deep sense of immersion, this is it. This is as good as it gets. It's everything that I was expecting from Rockstar. Also, I'll talk about this a little later, but visually it's stunning. The sound quality. There's so much to do. If you're somebody who appreciates nature, this game is amazing. It's as good as it gets. You can hunt. You can fish. You can go on scavenger hunts. for treasure. There are a lot of Easter eggs to find in the game. Interesting things. The map is, I'm going to tell you right now, the star of this game. Yes, the story's great. The characters are amazing. But it's really the environment. It's what it comes down to is the map, and the level of detail is second to none. This map is massive, and it's diverse. You got snowy regions, you've got warm regions, you've got desert type of regions, mountains, all kinds of terrains, swamps, and they all feel unique. There's the city of Saint Denis, which is based on sort of like New Orleans. It is an amazing patch of land. It's a mini city in the game, and it is so deep and diverse with people, and the level of detail is just mind-blowing. It's gonna just amaze you throughout the game, and you really begin to appreciate it the longer you play the game. It just keeps coming at you. The game literally overwhelms you with detail. Things that you would think to yourself, man, they actually... I can't tell you how many times I said that to myself. I can't believe they actually went through the trouble of making sure this is here, or this is noticeable. Things that in other games, it's just would not be paid, nobody would pay attention to. But that's what this game, it really punches you in the face with detail. And I love it. And it's as good as it gets. I'm going to tell you, I don't think we're going to see another game like this for at least another 10 years. Because Rockstar, which is one of the biggest game developers with the most resources, took almost 8 years to develop this game. That's unheard of. And it's not something I think any developer is going to do anytime soon. The amount of money and resources that you have to put in to make this possible is it's mind-boggling. I'm amazed they did this. It was a big gamble, but it paid off. The game really, for me, all the effort that was put into it is worth it. No part of this game feels like, all right, they didn't need to do that. It was a waste of time. It's all there, and it's the details that matter. I've talked about this before when I talked about other games and NASCAR games. It's like there's not enough detail. There's not enough attention to all the smaller details, and everything matters because when you add it all up and you're immersed in the game, that's what really makes the game deeper. So this game is really almost proves all of the things I've talked about in the past. This game is what proves it to be correct, in my opinion. When you play this game, you're going to get it. You're going to get the things I talked about in the past. If you've watched my videos, you'll be like, you know what? I get it. This is it. I feel it. So I'm going to make one. I'm going to take an example when what I consider this game to be. I remember when I first played Grand Theft Auto 3. That was really the first open world, three-dimensional game that was based like an open world where you can have that sandbox, go anywhere, do anything, discover. And that game blew me away. That game, I think that was back in 1998. So that was 20 years ago. And that's the game that, to me, it was that next level of innovation that really changed the entire gaming industry. It blew me away. I loved that game so much, and it was unforgettable. And around that time, I don't know if it was 98 or 99, but a movie called The Matrix came out. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen The Matrix. But the thing is, I think a lot of, those of you who aren't as old as I am and maybe a lot younger, you probably saw that movie many years after it came out. And by the time you saw it, you didn't have the same level of appreciation that people had when they saw it in the theater when it first came out. I remember that game, that movie blew me away the same way that Grand Theft Auto 3 blew me away when Rockstar released that. That's next generation stuff. So when I saw The Matrix, I knew, I said, I'm watching some next level shit. This is changing the movie industry. The same way Star Wars did in the late 70s. When they came out with that, it just blew people away. It was next level stuff. So this game is, for me, next level stuff. And it's not one thing that's like, oh my god, next level. But it's the addition of everything in the game. That's what's next level. That level of detail. That the being going so deep with every aspect of the game. And that, for me, is next level. They've been able to achieve things with this game that other games have only touched on and haven't really gone all in. And that's what, to me, this game is the payoff for waiting, for all that work. So that's what I compare it to. I compare it to like The Matrix. Like, okay, now we're on next level shit. I think that this game is going to push game development throughout the entire industry. It's going to push other developers to do more. So that's a fantastic thing. But I will say this. I don't think we're going to see another game like this for many years. It may be another 10 years. It may be we don't see another game like this because, think about it. It took one of the biggest game developers an insane amount of money and resources and people and time to take almost 8 years to develop one video game without and only releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 within that time. That is, when you really think about it, it would be kind of foolish to think that somebody else would do that. Or even Rockstar. I mean, would they do that again? It just boggles my mind. Like, that's not normal. That's not something that I see another developer saying, hey, we're going to do that. Because they want to turn that profit. And it's just not, it may not be profitable for another developer to say, we're going to take 7 or 8 years to really fucking make the greatest fucking thing ever. It just doesn't pay. It's like, why should we do that if we can just turn something out in maybe 3 years, do the best we can with it, and churn a profit, and then now we're in that age of microtransactions and all this other stuff. You can make a lot of money without doing this, which is another reason why I give Rockstar credit, because, man, they fucking did it. And you really get more than your money's worth here. So, I didn't want to spoil any part of the game, so I didn't get into the story of the characters, which is amazing. The level of detail, the conversations, everything in this game is interesting. When you don't follow the main missions, there are so many side missions, so many interesting things to do and discover that keep you on your toes. And just, you never feel like, okay, there's nothing going on. You never feel that way. No matter where you go on this map, even the most desolate areas are interesting. And it's stunning. I cannot praise the game enough. Just riding around, hunting, doing whatever, hanging out by a stream and watching the sunset, watching the weather patterns change, the cloud formations. Everything in this fucking game is next level. And for me, it is the greatest game ever made. You have to play this game. It is a must-buy. If you don't play this game, you don't know what you're missing. If you think you're not, I don't care about Westerns, just not for me, I don't know what to tell you, man. If this game doesn't win you over, nothing will. I can't really say a lot more about the game. Now, I'm going to say, out of obligation, And I've said before, it's not a perfect game, but just in the interest of showing fairness, right? I thought about it long and hard, and I found maybe a couple things that are on the negative side, right? Nothing for me that really uh, diminishes the game in any way, but just out of fairness, because I don't want people to say, well, this guy's a fanboy, he's calling it perfect. I'm not calling it perfect. But the imperfections in the game, in all honesty, you really got to be somebody with a magnifying glass and really look for imperfections. You know, you have the occasional glitches. Some of the glitches are hilarious. So for me, it doesn't detract from the game. It's those occasional glitches. It's funny shit. You should be able to laugh it off. But the one thing, if I had to pick one negative, it would have to be that the game controls could feel clunky at times. There are moments where you feel like it feels a little clumsy moving around, if like in certain confined spaces, close quarters and stuff. It takes a lot of effort sometimes to get around like certain areas. And if you're like inside of a house and you're really digging around and opening drawers and stuff, it could get a little tedious because of the game controls. Just feel a little clunky. But, you know, another thing that there are moments where this isn't really a negative, but I could see people like sometimes you shoot a guy 4 or 5 times and he's still alive. They keep coming. Is that really a negative? I don't think so, but there are moments where like, fuck, I got to unload a lot of shots. But here's the thing. It teaches you to aim for headshots and stuff like that, so you don't waste as much ammo. But there are moments where if you're overwhelmed with a lot of AI or NPCs attacking you, and you're like, fuck, I just shot this guy a bunch of times and fuck, he's still not dead. And that could, once in a while, it'll get to you, stuff like that. But, you know, other than that, I can't really say much negative about this game. So the replay value is amazing. I just played the entire game and I did it as, I don't want to say a good guy because there's no such thing. You know, you cannot play this game and consider yourself a good guy. But I would say somebody who makes moral choices that are morally on the good side. In other words, I didn't kill everyone that I ran into. There are a lot of choices in the game where you can choose to really just kill people or be brutal or let people go and maybe choose a different way of dealing with things. And the game, as it progresses, it plays out a certain way because the game remembers everything you do, how you treat people, how you talk to people. If you really killed a guy that maybe you could have helped, the game has a way of remembering these things throughout, and other characters remember you, and they'll treat you accordingly to how you behave. So I played the game as morally doing the right thing as much as possible, and I got a certain experience out of it. And now I'm going to play the game from the beginning again, but this time I'm going to be as evil as possible. I'm not letting people go. I'm not giving people a break. I'm going to be a badass motherfucker. I'm going to murder people. I love the side missions in this game. At many points of the game, it's just as good as the main part of the game. There are countless side missions. I haven't done all the side missions, by the way. There's still a lot more things to do and discover. If you want 100% completion of this game, you're going to have your hands full for a long time. So the replay value in this game is amazing. So I said I wasn't going to spoil anything, but I'm going to give you 2 examples really of just side stuff that happened to me throughout the game. Just that shows you how interesting the game can be. I wandered upon a cabin up in the mountains, and there was this inbred, fat, 300-pound inbred redneck guy sitting on his porch, and he's inviting me to come over. like, oh man, hey, you want to come inside and have a meal? And he's inviting me in. And of course, you have the choice to do whatever you want. And all of a sudden, his wife comes out, and she's like, "Oh, look, we got company. Why don't you come in? I got, there's some food and drink in here, So they're like enticing you to come in. Now, by looking at these people, they look like fucking people from The Hills Have Eyes, and you're like, something ain't right here. It's stupid to go in and accept the invitation, but for the sake of seeing where this goes, I said, what the hell? So I go in, and the fat guy's sitting at the table, and the food's there, and he's like, do me a favor, go upstairs and see what's taking so-and-so so long. I don't remember her name. So I go up the stairs, I go in the bedroom, and she's getting dressed in front of the mirror, and she's dolling herself up, and she sees me in the mirror, and she's like, oh, well, look at you, don't you? I forgot, there was a conversation going on, but all the conversation in this game is interesting. At times it's hilarious. So I walk up to her, and according to the things you do, the game, like I said, it kind of responds to you. And she starts like, hey, it's too soon for that. And she's like kind of like teasing you. So she's like, go downstairs and wait for me and stuff. So I go down, I sit at the table, and we're eating, and the fat guy's there, and he's talking, and then she comes down, and she's like, hey, man, have some wine or whatever it was they had out there. So I took a swig, and all of a sudden, everything got blurry, and the screen went black. And then the next thing you know, I woke up in a pit in the woods. And I had a dead body next to me. I just woke up, and I'm all drowsy. And you're like, the fuck? Meanwhile, you just got robbed, and they dumped you out there. So now, I get out, and I find my way back to the cabin, right? Because it wasn't that far away from the cabin. So I go to the cabin, and I'm sneaking around this time. I love stealth. I love this type of stuff, where you're kind of like just sneaking around. I look in the window, and I can hear the voices. I can hear them talking. And I go around, and I sneak in through the back door. And all of a sudden, I creep up on her in the kitchen. And she turns around, she starts screaming. And she tries to attack me. So I stabbed her with the knife. And all of a sudden, the fat guy comes, and he's running towards you. And you get into a fight with him. I stabbed him to death. So now I killed him. And now I'm searching around the house. I'm searching drawers and everything. I'm finding little things here and there. And now I gotta find where they stashed all my shit that they stole from me. And it was hidden behind a painting on the wall. And I got all my stuff back. But that was an interesting, just little side mission. And I love that stuff. When you watch this stuff play out and it's happening to you, it's amazing shit. So that's one little thing. And another time in Saint Denis, in the New Orleans type of city area, there's so many people, interesting side characters, and a lot of the times they'll call you over, or they'll offer you things, or they'll ask you to do them a favor. And there's one guy calls me over, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I got an offer for you, but I can't tell you here out in the open. Let's go back here in the alley." And I said to myself, "This don't look good either." But I said, "What the fuck? Maybe he's gonna give me a heads up on some money, something." Because most of the time it happens that way. But then I followed him into the alley. All of a sudden, somebody hits me in the back of the head. Once again, I wake up in in an alley. They fucking took almost $1,500 from me, and I got fucking mad. And that's another thing I love about the detail of this game. First of all, $1,500 in the late 1800s was a lot of fucking money, and it took me a long time to make money, and that's what I love. The money is really every dollar is fucking important. And I got so mad. I said, I can't fucking believe I knew I shouldn't have went there. And I'm mad at myself. But now I'm going around town. I'm looking for this fucking guy. And guess what? I never found him again. Now, I'm still playing the game in free roam and stuff like that. So I'm sure I can run into him eventually. Maybe somehow get my money back. But the point is that moment, it pissed me off. but in a good way. And it's things like that that keep this game, it keeps you on your toes. That level of detail is just so fucking amazing. One last thing I'm going to say, when talking about these things that really matter, your bond with your horse, it takes a long time to build up a good bond, taking care of the horse, where he trusts you. And for almost half the story of this game, I had one horse, and this horse was really good to me, and I built up a great bond. And one of these side missions, I ran into this rival gang, and they spotted me. I got really careless, right? If you get careless in this game, it'll fucking get you. I got into a firefight with them, but I wasn't paying attention, and my health was kind of low. I hadn't eaten for a while, and I was just, I was usually keeping on top of that stuff, but I got killed before I could really react. And not only did they kill me, but they killed my fucking horse. And in this game, when your horse dies, he's dead forever. There's no magically he respawns. You come back to life and you're somewhere, but you lose money and you lost your fucking horse that you spent all that time building a bond with. That shit really fucking matters. And it's details like that video games have really been missing for the most part. But in this game, all of this matters. That's why I love the methodical RPG elements. The pacing of the game is amazing. It's perfect. I know that I'll be playing this game for a long time, and it won't lose its appeal. This is the greatest video game I've ever played, and I would stack this up against any game. So in my opinion, this is as good as it gets. And I don't think we're going to see another game like this anytime soon. I think years from now, people will be talking about this game the same way that we still talk about Grand Theft Auto 3 and what a revolutionary game that was. Or like The Matrix, when you talk about films. Like, people still look at that movie and say, man, that shit elevated the entire movie industry. That was revolutionary what they did. We don't appreciate it today as much. But if you saw that film when it came out, that's what I'm talking about. And this game, that's exactly what this game is. So, I know not to expect another game like this anytime soon. It was a huge gamble, but it was worth it. I'm glad they did it. It was well worth the wait. And if you haven't played this game, you really are missing out. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what else to say. I'm curious to know, have you played it? What do you think of it? And if not, are you now going to probably give it a chance? I promise you, it is well worth it. So those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments. And until there's something else for me to talk about, I guess I'll see you guys around. So I appreciate the time. I look forward to your comments. Later.